Hello everyone and welcome back to the show that today we'll see a cavalcade of cartoon carnage when Dreamworks takes on Illumination. Why would we take a gaggle of lovable humans, creatures, and franchises and make them fight it out for our amusement? Well, the show is called Versus. It's kind of what we do. I'm your host Mark Ellis and I'll be judging this all-out anthropomorphic animated assault. Yes, I nailed that sentence in one take. These are two of the biggest animation studios in Hollywood, responsible for tens of billions of dollars at the box office and hundreds of trillions of smiles across Earth, Away Land and Whoville. By the way, Whoville, and I cannot stress this enough, they got some serious issues going on over there. The Grinch, least of their concerns. In one corner, it's Dreamworks, the studio founded by three super rich creatives that's blessed us with Shrek, Toothless, and everyone's favorite, Boss Baby. You thought I was gonna say Kung Fu Panda, didn't you?
Maybe I should just quit and go back to making noodles.
And in the other corner, it's Illumination, gentlemen. Cue the Phantom of the Opera chandelier. See? I'm cultured. It's the studio that's regaled us with adorable minions, secretive pets, and of course, the Lorax. You thought I was gonna say Scratch from Ice Age, didn't you? Interesting note about that. A couple of the Ice Age films share some connectivity with Illumination, which we will get into a little bit later, but they are not eligible for competition today. I don't care how many acorns that squirrel gave me before the show. Here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer/audience score. Round 3, characters. Round 4, franchisability. And then we'll do a wild card round that Illumination hopes will involve overalls, while Dreamworks is crossing their fingers that they can win you over with cute sword-wielding kitties. And now here's my disclaimer. The fact that I've lasted this long without gushing about how cute Puss in Boots is, it's nothing short of a miracle, and it's probably gonna happen a lot during this match, because he's got his little hat. Sorry, Mark, suck it up. Millions of people are watching this. Both studios make films that blend quintessential kid stories with humor for us adult folk that has been pleasing families since the late 90s, but today, only one can reign supreme, emerge victorious, and advance to play Pixar in the next round. You know what, maybe we just team these two up against Pixar. Buzz and Woody, they tend to bring the lumber. But enough about possessed dolls, this is Versus, let's get it on. Round 1, box office. Go ahead and name your favorite animated movie. Shout it at the TV or the phone or computer monitor right now. Chances are, it did very well at the box office. Audiences flock to big blockbusters, families pile in for animated flicks, and in the case of Dreamworks and Illumination, they tend to get the best of both worlds, even when one of their films gets overshadowed, such as the case with Ants, the very first feature film from Dreamworks Animation. A Bug's Life came out the same year, courtesy of Pixar, but Ants also did well, earning $172 million worldwide back in 1998. The next year, Prince of Egypt would get into the promised land of over $200 million with a tinier budget, and the fledgling animation house had found its formula. Then, in 2001, a green ogre and his pals showed up, and so did everyone to the movie theaters, as Shrek hauled in 484 million bones around the globe. The sequel, accurately titled Shrek 2, set what is still the high bar for any Dreamworks project when it raked in $920 million across the 7 seas. Shrek the Third and Shrek Forever After also performed well, as both donkeyed their way to over $700 million each. But Dreamworks was just getting warmed up with its marketable properties. Madagascar debuted in 2005 to the tune of $533 million. Kung Fu Panda kicked off in 2008 with $632 million. And in 2010, How to Train Your Dragon flossed up $495 million. Oh, and Puss in Boots earned $555 million, largely because of how adorable his tiny sword is. That flick was released in 2011, which is just a year after Illumination began their run of hits. But before we get to the Despicable Me's, there's that Ice Age conundrum. You see, Illumination founder Christopher Meledandri was an executive producer on the first 2 Ice Age films, then founded his own animation studio, Illumination, not to be confused with the Illuminati, who had a good run below the Denver airport until Scarlet Witch wrecked them all in about 3 minutes. So then we get the first Despicable Me in 2010, and Gru's evil genius paid off to the tune of $543 million. Then Despicable Me 2 crushed in 2013 with a $970 million worldwide take. Dark Helmet may have had a point when he said evil always triumphs over good because good is dumb.
I
can't breathe in this thing!
But if we like Gru, we love the Minions. Their standalone film, cleverly called Minions, rung up $1.15 billion in cash registered jingles. The next Despicable Me flick would also cross the billion-dollar threshold. But like Dreamworks, Illumination was never content to be a one-franchise pony. The Secret Life of Pets and Sing both kicked off with monster numbers, combining to make over $1.5 billion. And now, Dr. Seuss checks into the ballgame. The Lorax and the Grinch add up to an additional $850 million in global revenue, so we got us a scrap on our hands. But here's what this round is going to come down to: quality or quantity. Dreamworks and its decade-long head start certainly has more bodies to throw into the fray. And after 42 films, the studio's per-movie average is a whopping $369 million, and the grand sum total of all those flicks is over $15 billion. Thanks, boss baby. I kid, kid, but that first Double B movie took in $528 million. Kids, they really are the future. It's obvious Illumination can't compete in total box office revenue. They only have 11 movies to date that have added up to just over $7 billion. But that per movie average is jaw-dropping. $645 million every time a new film is released. That beats The Wisecracking Baby by over $100 million. And sealing the deal is frugality. While the typical Dreamworks picture costs around $116 million, the usual Illumination flick, just $75 million.
I really don't see how we can afford this.
So we make more per motion picture, yet it costs us less to put that picture into motion? It feels like an upset win in round one, but Illumination gets the point and goes up on Dreamworks 1-0. Round two, Tomatometer/audience score. So Dreamworks finds itself in a somewhat surprising hole after round one, simply because how could anyone top the box office clout of Shrek, Donkey, Fiona, and again, that amazing cat? And I'm a dog person saying this. Round two might be another uphill climb for the works, simply because they've made so many more movies than Illumination, and the more flicks you put out, the more chances they have to fall into rotten territory. Don't believe me? Just ask Steven Seagal, if you can find out where he is. For Illumination, they've been the new darlings on the animation block for the last decade, and much like their box office results, the critical reaction to these flicks has been solid. Gru kicked us off with tons of promise as Despicable Me, now Part 1, notched 81% on the Tomatometer, and its immediate sequel stands tall at 75%. So that's good news. The bad news is that those are the highest rated films in the entire Illumination batch. Shockingly, the pair of Theodore Geisel movies are both rotten, with The Grinch at 59% and The Lorax at 54%. Theo also went by the moniker Dr. Seuss. Was he a real doctor? Doesn't matter, we love him, but maybe consult an actual physician before ingesting green eggs. Trust me, kids, this is the voice of experience. Dreamworks has an opening now and looks poised to take full advantage. How's this for a start? All three How to Train Your Dragon movies are at 90% or above on the Tomatometer. The first one is at 99%, begging the question of what critic was bit by a dragon when they were young. The second is 91%, and the third, The Hidden World, is at a 90% even score. Dreamworks continues to pile it on with Chicken Run at 97%, Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit at 95%, and even Ants marching its way to a 92%. Fun fact time. Ants' bitter rival, A Bug's Life, is also at 92%. Look, it's been over 20 years. Can we bury the hatchet and make these movies friends? No? I tried. When we combine both studios and cinnamon toast the numbers, it's not great news for Team Lightbulb. Dreamworks can boast about having all 10 movies in the top 10 of either house on the Meter de Tomato. That's thanks to the first Kung Fu Panda and Captain Underpants films, both of whom reside at 87%, and Shrek 2 at 89%, besting its predecessor by a mere 1%. Curiously, it's also Shrek and the gang who own the lowest Tomatometer score for Dreamworks, as Shrek the Third is at just 41%. What happened in that movie? Is Steven Seagal doing the voice of Shrek in that one? But even that numeral is considerably higher than Illumination's low bar, which is 24%. Care to guess the flick? Here's a hint. It features a set of animals known for their leaping ability and their knack for procreation, Hop. While the Easter classic is the outlier here, not even the Minions could bob their way into fresh waters. That movie is 55%, and Despicable Me 3 is at 59%. All told, Dreamworks dominates the law of averages here, garnering 72.4% for an average movie, toppling Illumination's usual of 61.9%. Freshness all around, but one is clearly using that natural deodorant. So let's head on over to the audience score, where Illumination does have some firepower. The sequels, Sing 2 and The Secret Life of Pets 2, are both above 90%, and the lowest flick here would be... Oh no, really? It's Minions? Really? Just 49%? What was the audience expecting? I'm sorry it didn't have Daniel Day-Lewis sewing clothes in it, but that's still better than Dreamworks' all-time low, Shark Tale at 45% on the audience score. Really? Again, look, the movie's called Shark Tale. What was the problem?
It's over. You're old school.
Our expert researcher Mark Hoffmeyer took a break from watching fight scenes in bathrooms, that was a real thing he did, to provide you all with this tidbit. We combined the studios again, and Illumination still only has 2 of the top 10 movies according to the audience score. Dreamworks has Abominable and Spirit Untamed at 95% on this metric, and their overall average per flick is 71.8%, besting Illumination's 68.9%. So now the only question that remains is, how'd Puss in Boots do? 86% fresh on the Tomatometer, and 67% on the audience score, which is a little too low for my taste, but I'm not going to pick another fight with the loyal viewers of this show. Again, I am sorry that Shark Tale didn't have enough talking farm animals for y'all. Dreamworks gets on the board in convincing fashion in round 2, and we got us a brawl. It's 1-1 as we head into round 3, characters. Okay, yes, Puss in Boots will be a major factor here, but I'll try to be as unbiased as I can. I'm also a dog person, and I do love the Grinch's dog, Max, so that should even things out somewhat. After all, we were only blessed with Sir Lord Boots thanks to Shrek, which is actually a wonderful place to start this round. The titular ogre may have gotten the butts into seats, but this franchise is an ensemble lover's paradise. Donkey, voiced by the incomparable Eddie Murphy, and Fiona, played by Cameron Diaz, headline a stunning array of complimentary folks ranging from John Lithgow's Lord Farquaad to Julie Andrews as the Queen? Come on, that's A-list heaven. Ironically, it was Shrek who was the most confounding voice to cast for reasons both light and tragic. Originally, the role was going to go to Chris Farley, who even did vocal work for the big green guy prior to his untimely passing. Then fellow SNL castmate Mike Myers stepped in, but didn't do his Scottish brogue initially. It was more or less just Mike Myers. And it was Dr. Evil who, after hearing his sessions, requested to redo the character in Scottish, which ended up costing Dreamworks around $5 million. I guess because microphones are expensive? But come on, did you see the box office round? They made out pretty alright in the end, but Shrek would be far from the only tentpole available to Spielberg, Geffen, and Katzenberg. See? I knew their names. I also know Poe, Monkey, Viper, Tigress, Mantis, and the rest of the Kung Fu Panda Brigade. Each role brings a unique energy to the proceedings, which is probably why the franchise has been so successful. You got the comedic chops of Jack Black and Seth Rogen, the ass-kickery of Lucy Liu and Jackie freaking Chan, and the Oscar prowess of Angelina Jolie. Plus, Jean-Claude Van Damme voices a crocodile in Kung Fu Panda 2. It really is the gift that keeps on giving. If you're still wrestling over whether you love dogs or cats more, maybe meet in the middle with a cute little dragon? Hiccup, voiced by Jay Baruchel, and Toothless the Dragon are such a wonderful boy and his dog pairing that the film just seems to get better and better. America Ferrera and Gerard Butler are 2 more examples why Dreamworks is doing it right when it comes to voicing animated characters. But Illumination hit hard right out of the gate by landing Steve Carell for the voice of Thelonious Gru. The star of The Daily Show, then hit films like Anchorman and Bruce Almighty, as well as The Office, Carell ditched his usual baritone for a less relatable dialect, but the gamble paid off. Not only do we get to see both how evil and how fatherly Gru can be, he was also the conduit who introduced us to the Minions. Bob, Carl, Darwin, and the rest of the enormous population are experts at comedy relief, but they can also lead their own film when necessary. Having said that, if you are going to strike out on your own as a headliner, it helps having Sandra Bullock voice the lead diabolical human as backup. Danny DeVito is the Lorax, and Benedict Cumberbatch is the Grinch were home run hits as well. And while DeVito seems like the ultimate no-brainer in terms of Seussian creature casting, the studio also didn't dawdle for long before going after Doctor Strange. It was Cumberbatch's Sherlock role, however, that sealed the deal. They wanted to go deeper into the Grinch's backstory, so they needed someone who could handle both grief, comedy, and dark tendencies with aplomb, kind of like that detective fella. Kevin Hart and Jenny Slate are just 2 of the comedic standouts from The Secret Life of Pets, and if you like a big cast, Sing would have us here all day, so I'll simply mention that Matthew McConaughey is the voice of a koala bear. Enjoy.
Why would you pull yourself together and please blow that nose of yours?
But back to Dreamworks for their ace in the hole. It's time for me to full-on gush. Look at the little kitty in his tiny boots, and he's got the little hat. I want to snuggle him. But that was far from the original concept of this feline. Producers first had artwork of a heavier cat inspired by 19th century French artist Gustave Doré's rendering of a kitty with a belt full of dead mice and a necklace sporting beaks. Nice gifts though they may be, once Antonio Banderas stepped into the role, they favored the inspiration from another Banderas character, Zorro. The playful movements, the cocky charisma, 'twas the charm radiating from Antonio that gave us the Puss in Boots that we all know, love, and embarrass ourselves fawning over.
Puss in Boots. Ooh, I'll kill that cat.
In a round that saw an outnumbered Illumination put up quite the fight, I gotta lean on Dreamworks for its vast array of diverse characters, ranging from humans to animals to troll dolls, and the kid fishing on the moon goes up 2-1. Round 4, franchisability. Ah yes, I do love a round that is titled by a word that archaeologists believe was invented by me, Mark Ellis. Franchisability, likely first used way back in the Geozoic era of 2018 on this very show, and now it pertains to two studios that have proven to have a penchant for churning movies out that are so beloved, we just gotta make more of them, hence begetting a franchise. Here's the rub. Each studio must select one of their tentpole talking picture monoliths to duke it out here. Well, technically it's going to be me, the guy who invented franchisability, doing the selection in a move that should level the playing field. After all, Dreamworks has had 12 extra years to make blockbuster flicks into sequels and trilogies, but Illumination may not even need that break. They have The Sings, The Secret Life of Pets, and I guess we could lump in Dr. Seuss as one big franchise, but the easy answer here would be Despicable Me. That's what's going to be entering the cage in this round, and now we look to Dreamworks for their champion. It's quite the list to choose from. Obviously, we can go with Shrek, but How to Train Your Dragon is up there too, as is Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar, even the Croods could stake a claim. But if I gotta go with the most profitable Illumination franchise here, fair play would indicate that I select Shrek and his gaggle of goofs to enter the fray on his studio's behalf. What is the better franchise, Shrek or Despicable Me? Shrek has so much room for storytelling because it takes place in a fairy tale land. And if any of you watching used to be children, you know that's pretty fertile ground for characters. Don't believe me, just ask the company that has all those theme parks around the world. Meanwhile, Despicable Me has seen its star continue to rise because it's more relatable to us here on Earth. Stay with me, people. I'm not talking about the evil billionaire genius villain dad thing, but it's the family dynamic at play that continues to give Gru, his daughters, and the minions purpose. Sure, he can be wretched as a human, but that's just his job. We all hate our job, but we do it so that our kids can lead better lives than we ever could. Unless you're me, because I don't have children and this is my job. It's pretty fun. But still, there was one other franchise I was tempted to pick over Shrek, Madagascar. Yeah, I just said that because of the spin-off potential. Those penguins from Madagascar had their own hit movie, and they're great. Like, I love the penguins. But Shrek also had a spin-off character that needs no introduction. It's the kitty, who really could have looked like Grumpy Cat with the bones of his victims around his waist. Man, French art just hits different. Luckily, Puss in Boots is much more lovable and could carry on the Shrek franchise in new, exciting ways. But even that fancy feast chowing putty cat couldn't match the might of the minions. They're simple yet adorable, and what they lack in individual skill, they make up for in sheer numbers. They may not be the brightest bulbs or the most worthy thought-provokers, but there's too many of them to ignore. And that especially comes into play when we talk about yogurt from Spaceballs' favorite word, merchandising.
Where the real money from the movie is made.
Their merch sales are in the billions stratosphere. Hell, I even won a Minion basketball by shooting 3 successful three-pointers in a row at Universal Studios. I won it for my girlfriend at the time. She didn't want it, I kept it anyway, and we are no longer together. Shrek has obviously crushed it in the merch game as well, but none of those characters can keep pace with the demand for the tiny yellow eraser heads. And the movies themselves don't seem to be slowing down. We got another Despicable Me this summer, and while the jury is out on whether we get another Shrek or Counting Crow's cover of a Monkey song, the Green Ogre had an amazing run for 10 years. But get this, now Despicable Me has had a longer jog than Shrek and Puss start to finish, and Gru looks like he can keep the pace going a while longer. Look, I'd love nothing more than to see Shrek, Fiona, Donkey, and Booties, which is what I call the cat, back on the big screen, but as of now, the franchisability seems to be strongest with Despicable Me. Keep up the great work, Minions, but look out for those penguins. Don't sleep on that movie, y'all. Those monogamous rascals are hysterical. Illumination gets the point, though, and we're tied 2-2. And now it's time for the wildcard round, iconic moments. These are the scenes, sequences, and scenarios that have made us laugh, cry, and cough up popcorn seeds because of whatever was going on with us that day. Before we begin the deciding round of this match, I have a question. What makes you, the home viewer, cry the most with either one of these studios? Besides how much bigger their bank account is than ours. What's the movie, the moment that got y'all misty-eyed? For me, it seems to be at least halfway through every dragon training adventure that my emotions are feeling the need to express themselves through my eyeballs. Hiccup and Toothless reminds me of myself and Molly the Wonder Dog, but it's also the noble ending for Stoic, who sacrificed himself to save Hiccup. That funeral hits hard. And as far as cartoon wakes go, it's gotta be right up there with anything. It's the saddest thing since the Honey Smacks frog died. Oh, he's still alive? Oh, good for him. Carry on. Dig him, dig him. Historically, emotions can run long in animated films, in a tradition paved by Disney murdering a family member 5 minutes into every classic, or by Pixar showing us how a guy's wife died horribly before launching a house into the sky with balloons. Oddly for Illumination, it's the two characters who might be the most villainous that get my tear ducts ready, Gru and the Grinch. There's some real heartstrings being pulled with the Grinch's backstory, and seeing him bullied makes me want to turn Whoville into the next Alderaan. Speaking of the dark side, Felonious Gru has it in spades, but he also loves his little girls, and he's had his own trying backstory as a youth with neighborhood ruffians. But let's get real. No one shows up to these movies hoping to weep uncontrollably. That's just an unexpected byproduct of how invested we get with these characters and their moments. By and large, we roll up to the multiplex on opening night hoping for lots of laughs. And Shrek doesn't have any character that can't conjure up a laugh right on command. Mike Myers and Cameron Diaz have starred in some of the biggest live-action comedies ever, yet they're usually playing it straight to the antics of Donkey. The gingerbread suffering is always a welcome sight for some sick reason, and of course I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight the first time we see Puss in Boots do the sad eyes in Shrek 2. Kung Fu Panda is here for laughs, as evidenced by the bevy of squadouche yelps, but the fight scenes in that franchise are top-notch as well. The first film has an epic prison break sequence, and part 2 features an all-time showdown against the conniving Shen, voiced by Gary Oldman. The guy's pretty good at playing baddies. Megamind also had some thrilling extravagance and a killer soundtrack, and here's a deep cut for you, the Red Sea parting in Prince of Egypt. Did that actually happen? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure real penguins can't fly planes, so maybe just relax and enjoy the ride. The Minions make me laugh so hard I almost popped my hernia stitches, and the bulk of those giggles were in their own standalone adventure. Bob as an England monarch, them stuck in prison, it just keeps getting better. And speaking of rockin' soundtracks, don't think this mighty Van Halen fan missed that scene near the end when one of them wails on an electric guitar and teases us with a few notes from Eruption. Anyone else pick that up? I might be the only one. Well, you really got me with that reference anyway. But whereas with Sing and Trolls and their bevy of cuddly characters, the iconic moments are just mainly fun music videos. On the other side of the street is Dreamworks, and they have tons more movies to rely on for great memories, like Hunting with the Croods, the epic fight or flight moment in Chicken Run, or really anything in a Wallace and Gromit tale. I'll take that Were-Rabbit over Hop any day. So as great as the premise for something like The Secret Life of Pets is, and as much as I do love watching a dog go to town inside of a hot dog factory, the vault of greatness from Dreamworks is just too much for the legacy of Illumination to handle. Keep cranking out more Minions and we might have a real battle here, but as of now, Dreamworks gets the deciding point and thus wins the match 3-2. All the propers in the world go to Illumination. They've picked and choose their spots wisely with reliable family entertainment for over a decade now, and I hope they keep going back to the Dr. Seuss well. But rewatching the Shreks, Shark Tale, How to Train Your Kung Fu Pandas, it was just so much fun. Disney and Pixar may still be atop Mount Olympus when it comes to animated features, but DreamWorks and Illumination have constructed quite a resume in their young life. Not to brag, or rather with the intention of bragging, I also won a basketball game at Disneyland, but I just got a stuffed animal as a prize that I believe was a drunken Mr. Toad? I gotta go back to the happiest place on earth and see what that situation is now. Well, the prize today goes to Dreamworks. Thanks to Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and all the other luminaries who didn't show up today and probably aren't aware that I'm talking about them, but you won! Congrats really to both studios on a fun episode, and now it's your turn, dear viewer. Which set of films do you prefer? Let me know on social media at Mark Ellis Live, and keep it right here at Rotten Tomatoes for all the latest in the world of movies, TV, and fairy tales. This has been Versus. I was Mark Ellis, and remember, there is no secret ingredient, only you. And maybe cayenne pepper.